Hey everyone, welcome back. If you've ever built anything on AWS, you have almost certainly hit this exact fork in the road. It's a classic question for cloud architects. When it comes to your API's front door, should you be using Amazon API Gateway or an application load balancer? Today, we're going to settle that debate.
At first glance, you might think these two services are pretty much the same. I mean, they both sit at the front, they handle incoming traffic, and they scale, right? But, and this is a big but, once you look under the hood, you'll see they are worlds apart. We're talking completely different use cases, features, and especially cost. And getting this choice wrong, it's not just a small mistake. It can seriously impact your whole architecture.
So that's the big question we're tackling. When you're standing at that architectural crossroads, which path do you take? API Gateway or an application load balancer? Let's break it down.
All right, let's not bury the lead. Here's the quick answer, the TLDR. You're probably going to lean towards API Gateway when you're all in on serverless with AWS Lambda, or when you need that rich built-in feature set like rate limiting. But you're going to choose an ALB when your backend is running on containers and your number one priority is keeping costs down at high consistent traffic levels.
Okay, before we throw them into the ring against each other, let's do a proper introduction. What exactly are these two contenders? First up, we have Amazon API Gateway. Now, you got to think of this as way more than just a simple request router. It's a full-blown API management tool. Its whole purpose is to let you create, publish, and secure your APIs. It's really the perfect feature-packed front door, especially if you're building serverless apps.
And in the other corner, we've got the Application Load Balancer, or ALB. This is your classic workhorse Layer 7 load balancer. Layer 7 just means it understands application-level stuff like HTTP requests. So its main job is to be an incredibly efficient traffic cop, routing HTTP and HTTPS traffic to all kinds of backends, from virtual machines to containers. All right, introductions are over. It's time for the main event. Let's really put these two services head-to-head and dig into how their core features compare.
Okay, this is where things get really interesting. The way they route traffic is just fundamentally different. Think about it like this. API Gateway is all about the method. So a GET request could be sent to one Lambda function, but a POST request to that exact same endpoint could go to a totally different one. Now, the application load balancer, it doesn't care about the method. It cares about the path. So if a request comes in for /browse, it goes to one service. If it's for /insert, it goes to another. It seems like a small detail, but trust me, it's a huge deal for how you design your system. When we talk about security, API Gateway kind of gives you a running start. It pushes you to use HTTPS right from the beginning, and it even manages the certificate for you. With an ALB, well, it starts with unencrypted HTTP. Now, you absolutely can and you absolutely should turn on HTTPS, but it's an extra step. You have to go and manually integrate it with the AWS Certificate Manager. And this is a big one. API Gateway is just loaded with advanced API management features right out of the box. I'm talking about things like setting up usage plans and quotas for your customers, throttling requests, and even validating the data that comes in. If you want that kind of control with an ALB, you have to start bolting on other services, like AWS WAF for a firewall and AWS Shield for DDoS protection. And the list of API Gateway superpowers just keeps going. It has native support for canary deployments, which makes your updates so much safer. It lets you manage multiple versions of your API at the same time. You can even import and export your entire API definition using an OpenAPI spec. Oh, and it's got first-class support for WebSocket APIs, which is a total game changer for real-time apps. Okay, all those features sound fantastic, right? But of course, they don't come for free. So let's talk about the thing that often becomes the ultimate deciding factor, your AWS bill. How do these two actually stack up on cost? Their pricing models are like night and day. Seriously, API Gateway is pure serverless. You pay for each API call you receive. If you get zero traffic, you pay $0 for requests. And ALB, on the other hand, is always on. It has a constant hourly charge, which means that even if it's just sitting there completely idle, you're paying for it. And this is the absolute key takeaway on cost. A comment I saw on Reddit really just nails it perfectly. For any new project, or maybe an internal tool, or just anything with sporadic, unpredictable traffic, that scale to zero power of API Gateway is a massive win for your wallet. The ALB really only starts to make financial sense when you've got a constant, heavy stream of traffic. Okay, so we've looked at the features, we've talked about the money, now it's time to pull it all together.
let's build a practical guide to help you make the right call for your specific project.
So let's make this really simple. You should definitely choose API Gateway if you're living in the serverless world with AWS Lambda, or if you need all those fancy built-in features like throttling and API keys without having to manage extra services. It is the go-to choice for public APIs where you need tight control, and of course, for any real-time WebSocket apps.
Now, on the flip side, the application load balancer is your champion if your backend is built on containers with ECS or just plain old EC2 instances. If you're operating at a huge, consistent scale where the per-request cost of API Gateway would just be insane, the ALB is way more economical. It's also perfect when all you need is simple path-based routing to your different microservices.
Let's make this even easier. Here's a simple 3-step mental checklist. First, look at your backend. Is it Lambda or is it containers? Second, what features do you actually need? Do you need that whole API management suite out of the box? And third, what does your traffic look like? Is it unpredictable or is it a constant flood? I promise, if you answered those 3 questions, the right choice will be pretty obvious.
But hang on a second. What if I told you it's not always this versus that? What if the best, most powerful solution isn't about making a choice at all, but about making a combination?
That's right. For really complex applications, the most robust and scalable architecture often involves using both API Gateway and an application load balancer together, letting each one do what it's best at.
Just take a look at this diagram from an AWS white paper. It's a perfect example. Here, API Gateway is the public-facing, secure front door. It's handling all the hard stuff: authentication, rate limiting, API key validation. Then, once a request gets the green light, it's passed on to an internal application load balancer, which then takes over and smartly distributes that traffic to all the containerized microservices running safely inside your private network.
This best of both worlds pattern is just incredibly powerful. You get to use API Gateway for all its front-end strengths, the security, the management, the developer experience, and then you use the ALB for its back-end strengths, super efficient traffic routing, and health checks for all your containers. It's an awesome combination.
So, there you have it. You've got the complete framework now. You know what to look for, you know the right questions to ask, and you can confidently pick the right front door for your API project. But the real question is, you might have solved it for this project. What about your next one? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.